Okay then, let's get the show on the road. The slide should have changed now, guys. So if you're seeing a different slide, white background, business blueprint for electricians, could I just see a show of hands just to confirm that the slides are now transitioning? Wonderful, excellent. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Andrew, Carl, everybody. Thank you very much. Wonderful. I'll stick those hands down again. Okay, once again, welcome to all of you. There are others going to be joining us as the evening goes on. This has been a pretty well subscribed webinar. The system allows me to have 100 on the call. There's 120 registered as at the time of coming on, so somebody may not make it. However, I am actually going to record it and send it out to everybody who has registered. So just in case if you end up dropping out or not being able to get back on or whatever, then I will send a copy to anybody who has registered for the webinar. Okay, there is a lot of information to get through this evening, and I know that some of you who are here have been here before. You've been on the webinars before with me. Some of you are members of my Electricians Toolbox, and I know that we've got some people here from other trades, non-electricians, and that's fine. You're more than welcome. But just remember that the language that I use is addressing electricians. It doesn't matter. The system will work for anybody. If your end user is the homeowner, an estate agent, landlord, letting agents, anybody managing a portfolio of properties, then the system will work for you. But just remember that the language and the scenarios that I talk about are geared towards electricians. So for those of you who are new to me and don't know anything about me, let me just give you a little bit of background about myself. I am James Dewane. I've been in the electrical industry, the electrical game for over 25 years now. For the past 12, my focus has been purely on the domestic sector, and over the years I've discovered a few things that have made getting business and keeping domestic customers a lot easier. When I use the term domestic customers during the presentation, I'm referring of course to broad residential market, which includes homeowners, landlords, letting agents, developers, and as I mentioned earlier, anybody who has a portfolio of residential properties. During the course of this evening's presentation, if you have any questions that you want to ask, the grey box that's on the top right-hand side of your screen has a little box there where you can key in or type in a question. Please, by all means, if you have any questions as we go through the presentation, type them into that box. Because of the amount of information that I've got to get through, I won't stop the presentation to answer the questions, but what I will do is I will answer all of the questions at the end of the presentation. I'm more than happy to stick around at the end and answer questions, but I won't delay the presentation because I know that there are people who will want to hear the end of the presentation but may need to get away sharpish, people who might have kids to get up for school in the morning or even get themselves up in the morning, whatever the case may be. But if you do have any questions, I will answer them. Just stick them in the box and I'll answer them at the end. So if they occur to you during the course of the presentation, pop them in there. I'll also from time to time just check in with you guys to see that you're understanding what I'm saying and perhaps to ask a question. If you locate the little hand button in that grey box as well and pop that up as and when I ask, it gives me an indication as we move along that you are actually following along with me and understanding what it is I am saying. So on that note, let's carry on. A little bit about me. As I mentioned, focusing on the domestic market at the moment. I'm a City and Guilds qualified electrician, apprentice served, did the old school apprenticeship. When I did the apprenticeship, it was a 4-year apprenticeship. I'm a member of the IET, and that's the Institute of Engineering and Technology. Also registered with the NIC EIC as a domestic installer for no other reason other than I do domestic work and I promote purely domestic work. I hold a degree in business management and marketing, which I picked up at the Open University. I blog at Kent Electrics for my electrical business and at marketing for Sparks for this part of what I do. Over the course of the last couple of years, I've picked up a couple of small awards, a couple for Online Electrician of the Year and one as Entrepreneur of the Year for the Kent region with the Entrepreneur Circle. And I'm also registered with the Association of Professional Coaches, Trainers and Consultants. I own and operate a small electrical company in Kent. It's Kent Electrics. And when I say operate, I mean I am hands-on. I'm out daily on the tools, and I wouldn't have it any other way because I actually enjoy the work that I do. I promote, as I mentioned, purely domestic work, but I still pick up the odd commercial and industrial job. But I can be choosy about them. My aim is to focus on domestic. That's where I see the market. Over the past couple of years, the past 2 years, I've been doing this, basically, teaching and training electricians on how to market their business locally in the domestic sector. I've written a couple of short ebooks. I have put together a number of small training programs. I run a YouTube channel with a few helpful tip videos on it. And I run a mentoring site called My Electricians Toolbox, which I'll tell you a little bit about that towards the end of the presentation, a little bit more about that towards the end of the presentation. And of course, we run these webinars. I run a webinar now pretty much almost monthly for non-members, but I run a monthly one for members of My Electricians Toolbox. And now I'm also running live events. So this year we've run 2 so far, and we're having another one. Third one is on the I lost it now, 12th of December, I think it is. But we're doing a live workshop in December, which is going to be based all around marketing yourself using social media. Everything I teach as far as the toolbox is concerned, or marketing for Sparks is concerned, is about marketing your business. It's about how to get and keep customers. And at the live events, we managed to be able to sort of drill down right into the practicalities of marketing your business locally. They're very down-to-earth presentations. There's no fluff. I think the last one we did was about magazines, about magazine advertising and how to maximize the impact of using local community magazines and directories. The one before that was all about using video on your website, and in fact at that one the guys walked away from the well, most of the guys walked away from the workshop with videos that they could use on their websites. As I said, the next one is going to be all about Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, so all the social medias, and setting up your profiles on those and being able to maximize those for local marketing. So why do I do what I do now? Why am I doing this? To give you a little bit of a backstory, not that long ago, several years ago, I pretty much lost everything through a couple of poor decisions that I made. Number one, about the type of business that I was taking on, and number two, the people that I was working with. And as a result of a couple of large contracts going under, then I ended up pretty much losing a lot. I managed to come away, I won't say unscathed, but with basically my tools and the ability to carry on, if you like. And that's what I did, and it was at that point that I decided to focus on purely the domestic sector, and there was a couple of reasons for that, which I'm sure you will agree. Number one, it is relatively easy to monetize the domestic market. You're not waiting 30 days, 60 days, 90 days for payments, and at the time that I was restarting, I needed to inject money into my bank very, very rapidly. So I didn't want to go down the whole road of subcontracting or working with organizations that would be holding large chunks of my money. So the domestic market to me seemed like the obvious choice because it was pretty much do the job, get paid, and I put a lot of effort into doing that. And very rapidly I learned that it was pretty much an untapped market as far as the trades are concerned, because a lot of tradesmen, particularly a lot of electricians, tend to go after the subcontract work or the bigger work and ignore the smaller jobs, which actually can pay more long term and can result in bigger work coming from them. Did you see a show of hands if any of you have ever gone to a customer and the customer, a domestic customer, and the customer has said to them they've been trying and trying and trying to get somebody, and you were the third, fourth or fifth person that they called and nobody seemed interested in the work? Can I just see a show of hands? Yeah, quite a few of us, hands going up there, because a lot of guys seem to think that there's bigger money or better money doing the bigger jobs, and the fact of the matter is that's not necessarily the case, because on a lot of the bigger projects and a lot of the bigger jobs you can be hounded on price. You know, you can be squeezed down to the last penny in terms of what you can charge for a job, because there's so many people competing for the bigger stuff. Also, it only takes a big contractor to go out of business, and this is one of the things that happened to me several years ago. It takes a contractor to go out of business owing you 20 or 30 grand, and that to a small businessman hurts your pocket and can be, well, I'd say life-changing, but certainly life-changing for your business. So I decided at that point then that the domestic market was the way to go, and I started to find different ways of marketing myself into the domestic market and different ways of getting customers. And I'm not going to say it was all plain sailing. It took me a while to figure things out and to get them right, because there's a lot of things that you do when marketing in the domestic sector that goes wrong, and there's a lot of things that you do that you fail at, and I'm guessing this is probably why a lot of people who have tried the domestic sector backed away from it, because they just thought this is too much work, this is too difficult, and I guess they just weren't able to crack the way of getting into that market. So it was easier to say just farm yourself out as a subcontractor to a bigger contractor, or it was easier to try and get the bigger projects rather than going after the domestic. But having persevered and having worked at it, I managed to find a way. And as a result of doing that, I managed to get myself back on my feet. Myself and my wife, we relocated. We moved to Kent, so we were able to get a new property. We were able to really get back up on our feet. Today, I can say today I'm debt free. I'm not a rich or a wealthy man. I am doing okay. I'm able to have my holidays. I'm able to pursue my hobbies. Some of which involve I fly at Rochester Airport, which I enjoy immensely, and I am studying towards my pilot's license. I do some scuba diving, and I like to go on a couple of holidays a year. I particularly like going out to Crete. But and I'm not saying that to impress anybody, because it's not impressive, but I guess to impress upon you that the stuff that I'm doing now in terms of getting business is working, and has worked in such a way that I was able to basically go in the space of 11 years. I've gone from basically having nothing and being completely on my uppers to being in a position where I don't really have to worry too much, and I can be choosy about the type of work that I take as well. And having done that, I had a number of friends over the course of the years who are also tradesmen in various different businesses, and they had started to use some of the techniques that I was using, and I helped them to develop things in their business. And with some encouragement from them, they sort of encouraged me to start doing something with this, as they say. You've got to do something with this. And that was their indication was that I should actually start training people on how to do this, because they were seeing results. They again sort of thought that the stuff that I was teaching was so simple and so obvious that it was amazing that a lot of people didn't actually do or use the type of stuff that I do. I also got fed up of the only way I can describe it is rip-offs. The large marketing organizations who promise you the sun, moon and stars, and it's very difficult here. I can't mention names because obviously for legal reasons, but organizations that promise you that they will get you to the top of Google, or organizations who promise you that they will send you X amount of leads per week. Hands up if you know the type of organizations that I'm talking about. Just a show of hands. Yeah, we all do. And they'll charge you for the privilege, and they charge you a hefty sum for the privilege of telling you that they'll do this. But the bottom line is they can't deliver, and they don't deliver. And if they do, it happens to be for a short period of time, just while they're focusing on getting your business, and then they move on. And I just got fed up of that kind of thing, because I got ripped off by people like that as well. I advertised for a while in a very large publication, which I'm sure all of you will be aware of. And again, I can't mention any names, but I can say that it begins with a Y, and the color of the particular publication is yellow, and I'm guessing again you know what I'm talking about. But I advertised in that for a while, and after a large hole, sizable hole in my pocket, I got one inquiry from that, and that one inquiry didn't even result in work. And I'm guessing, because I've spoken to other tradesmen, other electricians, that they have experienced the same, and I'm guessing that you have as well with that and other organizations. And I got fed up of that, because I thought to myself, if you know and understand how marketing works, if you know and understand how to promote yourself to customers, then you don't have to depend on organizations like that for business, because once you learn how to do it, you can do it yourself. You can get yourself to the top page of Google. That's not difficult. You can promote yourself locally. You can market yourself locally. You can do your own PR. It is not that difficult. But these guys all make it sound like it's some kind of black magic, and it's some kind of witchcraft that only they are capable of doing. And for that, you have to pay them a sizable sum almost every month to get what it is that they have. So I got really annoyed with that. I also then got quite frustrated with people telling me that there is no work out there. I would go to the CAF, as I'm guessing, hands up, who still goes to the CAF here regularly in the morning before they start work? Yeah. So I would go to the CAF in the morning, and there was invariably always people sat in the CAF going, you do out of courtesy, you'll say, how's things going? How's business? And you hear people grumbling and moaning and complaining, and, oh, it's tough out there, oh, there's no work, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. And then it's the same story in the wholesalers. You get into the wholesalers and you'll meet guys when you're standing in the wholesalers, whether you're in a queue or just standing at the counter chatting at the wholesalers, and you talk to them and, oh, there's no work out there, I'm scratching around, there's only this, there's only that. And I looked at it and I thought, well, how can that be? If I can find enough work to keep my diary full sort of almost 3 months in advance most of the time, if I can find that for me, why is everybody else struggling? And the bottom line is that they're not actually marketing themselves. They're possibly, as I said, depending on these other lead generating organizations or these ad placement organizations to get work, or main contractors to give them subby work. And of course, when the contractor hasn't got any work and he doesn't pass it on, they don't know where to turn. They don't know where to go. They've had their eggs all in one basket. But I got fed up of listening to this kind of frustration. And the thing is, this kind of stuff is going on today. a couple of weeks back, I dug out some comments off of some of the forums, and they were the Electricians forums. And you know, if you read what's on screen there, been in the game for 30 years now, have all the bump, NIC, Part P, kite marks, all of it. Cost me about £8 a year to stay on the road, fine. And I've been sitting on my arse for 2 months with no work, no income. It's gotten worse and worse. Introduction to Part P has increased the cost and time and money to such an extent that if I don't earn 200 a day, I'll fold. I'm nearly there. I mean, if you read and analyze it, this is happening almost 9 years after Part P has been introduced, and this guy is still moaning about it, still complaining about it. He, you know, the underlying comment there, I've been sitting on my arse for 2 months with no work. If he got off his arse and actually looked for some work, he might get some. And the other statement, if I don't earn 200 a day, I'll fold. And true enough. I mean, but if he's not earning at least 200 a day, then he's not actually trying to market himself, because it is so easy to go out and get 3 or 4 or 5 small jobs in a day. And if your minimum charge, if you're charging, say, 45, 55 an hour, you've easily made that. And that could be just putting up a couple of lights, or changing a socket, or repairing a shower circuit. Little jobs with a minimum charge, you'll easily clear 200 a day, and there are loads of that kind of work out there. And the next one, again off of another forum, these days it's very difficult with the introduction of licensed cowboys and the foreign workforce, where there's such undercutting of prices. How can I make a living? Again, I mean, this guy's not just lazy, he's prejudiced as well. Licensed cowboys, my guess is he's referring to the skill courses that were introduced. These were skills courses that were introduced to bring tradesmen who were already doing electrical work up to standard. In my view, that's a good thing. And I hear all the talk about 5-day wonders and all that kind of stuff, and these 6-week training courses and all of that. I hear that, and I understand the argument. What I don't get is we have always had people in our industry who were substandard, who were cowboys, who were not registered. They've always been there. The problem is, if you let that niggle you, if you let that get on your back, if you don't look after your own corner, then you're focusing too much on what other people are doing. Then you're not going to build your own business. And it's frustrating to think that people are putting so much energy into being miserable about stuff instead of pulling their finger out and actually just getting on and finding ways of marketing themselves, finding ways of building their own business. And a friend of mine used to say that you could either make money or you can make excuses. But what you can't do is you can't do both. So who here is finished making excuses? Let's see a show of hands. Good. Because it is so easy, guys, to go out there. If you focus on your corner, if you focus on what it is you're going to do, don't worry about what immigrants are doing. Don't worry about what the cowboys are doing. Don't worry about the government or the economy, because all of that stuff is always going to be there. It's always going to be in the background. It's always going to have an effect on the industry. Does it have to affect you directly? Not really. Because if you focus on your own business, if you focus on methods of marketing yourself, of looking after your own business, then you'll find ways to develop your business and make it work for you. So I've got to assume then that, you know, if you're on this call this evening, then you're an electrician or you're in one of the other trades. And I know we have people here from the other trades. You really want to increase or build a business. You're working directly for the end users. And when I talk about end users, I am talking about homeowners, estate agents, letting agents, managing agents, and as I said, people with portfolios of property. I'd like to think you got good working practices, good standards. You understand the importance of doing things right and the importance of good customer services. And I'm guessing that by now, if you're here this evening, you've already tried various different ways of getting business. You have an interest in learning how to get business, and you just want to find a system that works. You've probably tried already, I'm guessing, things like web optimization, SEO, pay-per-click, probably magazine advertisements, probably leaflets, probably network meetings, probably even some of those lead generation sites that I was talking about. And you may have found that they haven't worked for you, or they haven't been as effective as you wanted them to be. And the problem here is that when people find that, they tend to give up and move on to the next shiny object because they think the next big thing's going to work, or somebody's called them and explained that they'll be able to do a better job of getting them to the top of Google or getting them the customers that they want. When the reality is there are several methods of marketing your business that will work if you put the right emphasis and put the right time and the right efforts into actually doing it. And as I said, the unfortunate thing for us as tradesmen is that we spend a lot of time developing our craft. We spend a lot of time working on our trade and getting our qualifications and keeping up to speed with qualifications. But no one, and I'll again look for a show of hands in a second, but nobody through that whole process from the day that, certainly for me, when I became an apprentice, nobody taught me how to get business. Nobody taught me how to go and get customers. You know, they taught me how to do my trade. They taught me how to be an electrician, but nobody taught me how to get business. And would that be true for some of you guys as well? Show of hands, please. And this is the problem. And again, it's probably something that, thanks guys, it's probably something that should form part of the curriculum for any apprentice electrician, because it's all very well having the tools, it's all very well having the knowledge, but if you can't sell your services, then you are forever at the behest of somebody employing you or subcontracting to somebody. I mean, I met a guy this week. In fact, he's on the call this evening because I mentioned it to him. And I met him. I'm not going to mention his name. I met him this week while I was out on a job, and he is a young electrician, a qualified electrician, who is subbing for a main contractor at the moment. He's earning, I believe what he said was just over £150 a day is what he's getting. And out of that, he has to take care of his own travel arrangements and all the bits and pieces that go with getting to the job and doing the job. And I look at things like that and I think, you know, if he has, and he will after this evening, if he had just a small amount of information that taught him how to get his own customers, because, you know, from everything that I know about him, from the short amount of time I spoke to him, he's a good sparky. He knows his stuff, but he just doesn't have the confidence to go on his own because he doesn't know whether he would get customers or not. And if he just had a little bit of information teaching him how to get customers, how to get clients, how to build a business, then he wouldn't be earning 150 a day and having to pay all of his travel money out of it. He'd be earning in excess of 250, 300 pounds a day and having the travel and everything taken care of out of it. And this is, I believe, should form part of the whole apprenticeship scheme. They should teach people how to market their services and how to market them properly. But that's enough of a rant. Went off on a bit of a tangent there, guys. Apologize for that. So what we're going to look at this evening is some of the stuff that I teach, some of the stuff that I now teach to my students, my members, as far as marketing their business is concerned. But before we do that, we need to take a look at what sort of the traditional or the old style model is. I'm going to say old style, people are still doing it today, and that is that they may advertise in various places, they may claim that they're using word of mouth marketing, use lead generation sites, agency work, get work from the local builder, and possibly even from some of the guys down the pub or the club or whatever the case may be. So they get loads of little bits of leads from that type of thing, put them into the funnel, and then out pops at the other end possibly a job every now and again. I mean, is this the type of model that any of you are familiar with at the moment, where you have maybe an ad or two placed somewhere, you're talking to some of the local builders down the pub, or wherever you talk to them, I'm not necessarily saying down the pub, and you're sort of hoping that work will pop out the other end? Yeah, quite a few. And you're sort of hoping that work pops out the other end, and hope isn't a good strategy, guys. It's not a very good strategy at all, and that's one of the reasons why I sort of developed from this, and I did this. This is what I, you know, like everybody, I had to learn as well. And I developed a system. It's a system that I call a Sparks Blueprint, and many of you will have heard of it already. And the highlighted words obviously make up the word Sparks. That's where it comes from. But the Sparks Blueprint, basically, in that I teach electricians how to segment their market so that they know exactly who they're targeting in terms of the type of customers that they should be aiming for, how to position themselves as an expert, because when it comes to pricing, when it comes to getting paid what you're worth, people don't argue with experts. You know, you don't go and argue with the dentist when he tells you need a filling and it's going to cost you 75 quid. You don't argue with the doctor when the doctor tells you that you need an operation, and the operation, well, thankfully, you know, not so much in this country, but the operation is going to cost you. You don't argue with experts. So we teach people how to position themselves as experts, and that makes you stand out head and shoulders above the fly-by-nights, above the cowboys out there in the industry, above the handymen and all of the others in the market. And when you stand out as an expert, you don't end up competing on price, and everybody who knows me knows that I believe competing on price is a race to the bottom, and I don't ever want to win that race. That's one race I don't recommend that you try winning either, because if you're competing on price, there's always going to be somebody who will be able to go that little bit lower, and that little bit lower, and that little bit lower, and it's just a complete loser's game. But by positioning yourself as an expert, you get out of all of that. We talk about advertising in the Sparks Blueprint. We go through all of the different modes of advertising, the type of things that work, the type of things that don't work. I talk about how I have tweaked various different things to make them work in areas where people have said to me they will never work, or they've tried it and it doesn't work. And we look at all aspects of advertising, everything from print advertising, radio advertising, web, social media, the lot. We look at relationship building with customers, because when you build relationships with customers, you get repeat business. You get people coming back to you, people happy to refer you, people happy to give you testimonials. Again, unfortunately, and we'll talk about this again in a few minutes, but unfortunately, in the trades in particular, we don't tend to work on the relationships with our customers. We see customers as a one-shot deal, if that makes sense, where we get the job, do the job, take the check, bank the check, end of relationship. Hands up if that sounds familiar. Yeah. What we need to do is build relationships with the customers so that we keep them on side and we keep our name on the tip of their tongue. But we'll talk about that, as I say, again in a few minutes. And we look at how methods for keeping customers. We look at communication methods so that your customers are always aware that you are there in the background. That, you know, when somebody mentions to them that they need an electrician, you're the name that comes to mind. They don't have to think about it. You know, when a family member needs an electrician, you're the name that comes to mind. When they need somebody, you're the name that comes to mind. Believe it or not, I even teach systems whereby if they need other trades, you're the person that comes to mind, and it's you that they will seek out. It's about being what I call a gatekeeper, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. And then we look at putting all of that into a system that works so that you can spend 1 hour a day, just 1 hour, marketing your business. And as a result of spending 1 hour a day, you can keep your diary filled with work. Can I just see a show of hands? How many of you spend any time during the day actually marketing your business? Very few hands going up. There's a few, which is great. And you should. Every single day, guys, every single day, you should be spending some amount of time marketing your business. For me, it's 1 hour a day. I do it 4 days of the week. I do 1 hour, 4 days a week. I'm an early riser, get up in the morning, and I sit down and I work on marketing my business. And this isn't about sitting down and doing your certificates. This isn't about sitting down and writing up your quotes. This isn't about doing your VAT returns or your wages or anything like that. This is about marketing your business. This is about getting customers into your business. And I do 1 hour every morning on that. And I recommend to my students that they do exactly the same. An hour a day, 4 to 5 days of the week. Now, some of them do it in an evening, some of them do it in the morning, some of them will actually save it up and do 4 hours at the weekend. Doesn't matter. As long as you spend a set amount of time working on getting customers into your business. And unfortunately, not enough people, as the show of hands revealed, not enough people do it, because what they do is they go out to work, they get embroiled in the day's work that they're actually doing, they come home in the afternoon or the evening and they're exhausted, and then they're sort of hoping that some more work will have come in the meantime, and they're not putting enough, and I'm not saying everybody because there was a few hands that went up, but in general terms, they're not putting the effort in to marketing their business to keep it rolling over. And that's why we hit dry spots. That's when you get periods where things dry up, and then all of a sudden you put a rush on and you start marketing your business and you decide, oh, I have to advertise, or I have to go out and look for more work. Whereas if you did a constant number of hours every week on the marketing of your business, you would keep your diary full for months in advance, So what we're going to do this evening, I sort of promised you 5 steps. What we're going to do this evening is we're going to take out of this whole training program, and each one of those 6 modules there is a complete module in its own right. But we're going to pick out just 5 little steps from the whole and go through those, because I want you to go away this evening with information that you can actually use to develop and build your local domestic business. So the 5 steps that we're going to look at is with the 1 to 3. 1, 2, and 3 is a bit about getting customers, some of the stuff that we do in order to bring customers into our business. Steps 4 and 5 is going to be more about getting more from your customers. So it's the, I suppose, keeping customer element of it. A couple of things that I have to say is that, first of all, it's your business. I'm not going to tell you what you should do in your business. I'm certainly not interested in your bookkeeping or the arrangements you have with the tax office or the VAT office or anything like that. My sole interest is in marketing, and that is the getting of customers, the keeping of customers locally. So your business is your business. How you run it is your business. But what I can say is that nothing that I discuss as far as marketing your business is expensive, and nothing about it is complicated. In fact, a lot of it is so simple that you almost don't want to let the simplicity of it put you off, because it's so simple. And a lot of it people will have tried previously. There's things that I talk about that electricians try, and then, as I mentioned earlier, they try it for a while, it doesn't work for them. So instead of tweaking it, instead of getting it right for their business, they think, oh, it doesn't work for me, so I'm just going to walk away from that. And they stop doing it. And the truth is, a few tweaks could have possibly made it better for them. So before we go into any details about some of the stuff that we do, you need to sort of understand marketing, I guess. And marketing is very simple, because it's all about having the right message, delivering it using the right media to the right market. So you need to explain, when I talk about message, what it is you do using a media that is a method of delivery, if you like, whether it's leaflets, whether it's a magazine advertisement, whether it's a blog post, but a media to get to the right market. And one of the first things that we teach the students of My Electricians Toolbox is how to define their market. So when you know exactly what your market is and what your ideal customer is, it makes it so much easier to work out what the best media to use is to get to that market. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense, guys? Can you show your hands? Yep. Okay, good. You're with me. So yeah, once you have defined what your market is, then it's easier to work out. I mean, for example, just a very stupid example here, but for example, if I decided my ideal market was 45-year-old golf players, then an ideal media for me to use would be a signboard in a golf club. Does that make it clear? Hands up. Yeah. Yeah, so that's simple. You get the right, you know your market, you use the right media to attack that market, to get to that market, and then you deliver the message that you want to do. And in our case, the message is the type of work that we want to actually get from that market. So, as I said, don't be fooled by the simplicity of some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. So let's move on with the five things. One of the things that we teach in terms of getting business is local publications. Now, you heard me mention that we did a whole live workshop on this, and when we talk about local publications, we're talking about local directories, parish magazines, school magazines, local groups and clubs magazines, the type of thing you'll have seen them around your community on and off. Again, show of hands, guys. Anybody advertising in these publications at the moment? Hands up. Okay, a few. I would have expected to see more than that. But okay, so there's a few of you advertising in those. Guys, these types of magazines, these type of local directories are gold mines, really. But the bottom line is, for me, for my business, for a long time, this type of publication is responsible for almost 40% of the local domestic business that I get. And the reason that they work so well is because people trust these publications. The local community trust these local directories and these local parish magazines and the like, particularly the directories and the parish magazines. The school magazines, great, they work as well to an extent, and local groups and club magazines, they work as well. But the directories and parish magazines are an excellent form of promotion and advertising because they are relatively cheap to advertise in. They target a very specific geographical area, and if you want to stop traveling miles to get work because you're following main contractors around and you want to work in your local area, I mean, I can guarantee you could, if you wanted to, scribe a circle 15-20 miles around your home address or your office address, and you would have enough work in that area if you just target it correctly. People try these magazines and they fail with them for a number of different reasons, and we'll run over the different reasons and the different ways to make them work in just a moment. But people try them and they fail with them. They might do a month or 2 months in it, get no work from it, and then give up. When if they knew how to advertise in these magazines, then they would see that a major increase in the amount of work that they get, and it only involves some very, very simple tweaks. The things that need to be taken into consideration when you advertise in these local magazines is how you write your advertisement. That's very important. The ad needs to be visible. How do we say this? Of course it's visible. If it's in print, it's there, but it's got to stand out from all of the other ads in the magazine. And there are a number of tricks and techniques that you can use in these publications that will get you seen. Your advertisement has to look credible. You've got to make sure that the message that comes across in the advertisement is that you're not a fly-by-night, you're not a cowboy. And again, one of the reasons why people tend to fail is because they'll put an ad in for a month and then get no work from it, so they take it out and they stop running it, and then they might try it again and they take it out and they stop running it. Well, they're not building up any kind of confidence in the people who read the publication and the magazine, because they see the ad in there once, they don't see it in there again for a while, they see it in there again in a few months' time, and they think, oh, this guy's just dipping in and out, he's a fly-by-night. You're not building that credibility, you're not building that confidence in the users of the publication. The other thing you need to look at is the image. And we're not talking about an image as in being flash and posh and that kind of thing, but you need to be perceived as being a professional. You need to be perceived as being the type of person that they want to use. If you are looking to get domestic work, if you're looking to get work from homeowners, then you don't want your advertisement to be corporate. You don't want your advertisement to be commercial, because homeowners will look at your advertisement and see a corporate front and thereby assume that you're not interested in their domestic work. Now, that might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised at the number of people who will put an advertisement in a local community magazine. Now, there's a hint in the title there, local community magazine, not local business magazine, local community magazine. They will put an advertisement in a local community magazine, but it will have a corporate-y feel about the advertisement. Your homeowners will read that advertisement, if they bother reading it, and then they'll move on to the next guy who looks like he's interested in domestic work. Does that make sense, guys? Show of hands. Yeah, the amount of people, the amount of advertisements I see like that in community magazines where they think that they can just reproduce what they were using in other publications, pop it into a community magazine, and it's going to work for them. And then they wonder why they're not getting any business. What they then turn around and say is, the magazine doesn't work. And that's not the case. What isn't working is their advertisement. They need to tweak the advertisement to match their audience. You know, if you want local work, you have to give your advertisement a local feel. The other thing you need to look at on these publications is your call to action. It must be very clear what you want the customer to do, you know, and it's, again, interesting how people, and I have seen this, where people fail to put any kind of a call to action on there. They don't say call us now, they don't say call James or anything like that. They just put the phone number and that's it. And quite, you know, simply stated, psychologically stating, people need to see a call to action, because it does, as it says, it calls them to action. They feel the need to say, right, he said call me now, I'll call him now. And they respond to stuff like that. Psychologically, people will respond to stuff like that. If you just put the phone number on there and the guy on the next page has I don't know, let's say 24-hour electrician, blah, 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 call Fred now on, then they're more likely to call Fred now because they've had an invitation from Fred to give them a call. So you need to have a call to action on the advertisement. Again, I say all of these things sound simple, but it's amazing how the accumulative effect builds up an advertisement that actually works very, very well. Contact details, of course, need to be clear and obvious. And your telephone number should be a tracking number. Again, the amount of tradesmen who advertise in publications and don't know how effective the ad is unbelievable. And again, it's very easy to get a tracking number, very, very easy to get a tracking number. And for those of you who don't know what a tracking number is, it is very simply a geographical telephone number that is forwarded to your own main number. And every time somebody rings on that number, now I'm simplifying things, guys, because these things can do a lot more than this, but the bottom line is every time somebody rings that number, it counts the number of calls. So you can log into a computer screen and you can see that, let's say, number 1 is in magazine 1 and that received 78 calls this month. Is that a good ad? Yes or no? Well, let's have a look at number 2. Number 2 is in magazine 2 and that received 4 calls this month. Well, obviously then magazine 1 is doing better than magazine 2. And this is what you can do with tracking numbers. And they're very, very cheap to set up and get hold of. And they're very, very effective in terms of tracking your advertising. Because again, if you don't know what's working, you're throwing money away. And my belief is when you advertise, it should be an investment, not a cost. So therefore, if I put an ad in a magazine, I want to see a return for that ad. Therefore, that ad pays for itself and it pays me some money, and it's not a cost. So the only way you can know that effectively is to track where the calls are coming from. So you know which ones are performing, and then you can pull the plug on what's not performing. And that goes for all forms of advertising. You know, if you're advertising on radio, if you're advertising in the newspaper, if you're advertising in a magazine, if you're advertising on leaflets, if you're advertising in shop windows, whatever you're doing, you should have tracking numbers on it so that you can work out what's working and what's not working and where to best spend your advertising budget, if you keep such a thing. So that's tracking. Is there anybody here at the moment using tracking numbers? Show of hands. Interesting. Sorry guys, I am scrolling down here very fast because it's a very full code. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we've got 7 people who are actually using tracking numbers. Guys, every single one of you should be using tracking numbers. They are so cheap to set up, so easy to use, and they give you accurate tracking on your advertising. It's a lot better than depending on when somebody calls and you say, oh, where did you get my number from? Because you don't record it anywhere, if you're honest with yourself, and even if you do record it somewhere, there are times when you'll pick up the phone because you're too busy or whoever's answering the phone for you, and they'll fail to write it down and then fudge it later on and go, oh yeah, well that was out of that magazine or that was off of that leaflet, and it's not an accurate reading, whereas if you're using tracking numbers, it is. Again, I've gone off on a rant. Where you place the ad is very important. Number 1, the type of publication, because some publications work better than others. And then inside the magazines themselves, there are key places. There are key places on a page that work, and there are places that blatantly don't work. On any page in a magazine, and it's a case of understanding and knowing where the eyes fall on these magazines when people skim read them. And there's also key pages inside the magazines that you need to understand, because they, well, let's face it, the guys who are selling the marketing, selling the ads in these magazines, they have no interest in telling you that there are particular places that work well and particular pages that work well, because they have to sell all of the space. And if they start telling people that a particular area on a page or a particular page works better than others, then everybody would want that area and they wouldn't sell the space in the other parts of the magazine, in particular in the areas that don't work well in the magazines. And then those guys who appreciate this, and I mean the magazine editors, for want of a better word, the people who produce these magazines, you'll notice that they will have premium pricing. If they are promoting the fact that a particular area works better than another, then they'll have premium pricing on those pages. Most of these magazines have premium pricing on the front page and on the back page. And it would be no surprise to tell you that for our trade, front and back page doesn't work that well. You know, for estate agents, front page is great, wonderful. For our trades, front and back page is not the best position to be in. And the best pages that I've discovered over years of testing, the best pages that I've discovered are pages 3, 5, 7, and 9. And if you go any deeper into it, into the magazine after that, then you're on a hiding to nothing. You know, even page 9 I would avoid if I can. But I certainly won't go into a magazine unless I can get page 3, 5, or 7, and then I'll think twice if 9 is available. But and even on those pages, there are particular areas, there are particular parts of the page which are more important or better responsive than others. And then to make your ad stand out, there's a couple of different tricks and techniques for making your ad stand out on the page, and how you present your ad on the page. If I give you a very brief example, just a small psychological example, if you like, is putting a hatched line, a dotted line, around an advertisement will instantly draw a reader's eye to it. And that's simply because we have been, as human beings, conditioned over the years that hatched lines or dotted lines are coupons to be cut out. They are of interest because they are, you know, a coupon normally refers to a deal of some description, and we're all, as human beings, interested in a deal or a bargain. So a dotted or a hatched line around your advert will draw more attention than just a bold line or a square line or a red line. If you have a dotted line, it will pull the eyes better. Now, that's not going to guarantee that you'll get a call, but it's one of those little things that, when added to a lot of other little things, make your ad stand out. And your first mission is to get their eyes to land on your ad, because if it's landing on another electrician's ad, then they're the ones that are going to get the work. But as I said, these are some of the small tricks and techniques that you can use when placing advertisements in these magazines. And I've tested this over years, and I've worked out what works and what doesn't work. And again, one of the things that has helped me to track this and to make sure I understood it was the tracking numbers. It was to see when I put a half a page ad in a magazine and then put a quarter page ad in the similar publication on a different month, that a quarter page ad was actually getting a better response than a half page ad. I mean, that that alone was a revelation, to see that, you know, most people would think, go big, you'll get a better response. Hands up if that would be your automatic reaction. You put a half page in, it's got to get you a better response than a quarter page, hasn't it? Not true, guys. Doesn't work that way. And I've tested these things, and again, using the tracking number, I've tested this, and I've discovered that for us, a quarter page ad is much more effective than a half page. I've saved myself a small fortune just by discovering that, because, as you can imagine, the cost of a half page ad is a lot more than a quarter page ad. I've tried eighth pages, I've tried line ads, and I've still come away the quarter page ad outperforms the half page full page. It outperforms the eighth of a page. It outperforms the line ads. So just understanding and knowing that kind of thing makes your advertisement much more effective. So for the next one is, again, another simple thing that we do is leaflets. And I know I can almost hear people crying through the line at the moment, saying, I've tried leaflets and they don't work, or it's expensive. And I will say again, to a man, almost every tradesman that I talk to, or every electrician that I've spoken to, has tried leafleting at some form or another. And you know what I'm going to say now. Put your hands up if you have tried leafleting, because I know the majority of hands are going to go up. Yes. Yeah. Pretty much all. There's a few not gone up, but yeah, a lot of hands gone up there for using leaflets. Okay, let's try again. Put your hands up if you have had great success leafleting. Okay. Sorry guys, just scrolling down very quickly, so I can see three hands out of the lot gone up there for, excuse me guys, just excuse me for that. Leafleting, everybody seems to try it and everybody moans about it. Every person I speak to says, oh, I've tried leafleting, that doesn't work for us. We distributed 500 leaflets in this area and that didn't get us any work, so we stopped doing it. Or we had 10,000 leaflets done and it cost us a fortune. We had them designed and we had them, we paid somebody to distribute them, and they say it didn't work. But they don't then go back and look at why didn't it work? What went wrong? Why is it not working for them? And I know people get really frustrated with this because they see some people get really good results and then other people get no result at all or really poor results. And the reason why it doesn't work is because they don't do targeting with leaflets. You know, if you just blanket leaflet places, you will have problems. You will not see a response. Look, what people tend to do, they tend to spend a fortune on having leaflets designed. So they'll pay a graphic designer whatever his fee is, and it can be anything from 80 quid to 800 quid, depending on who you've employed and what it is you're asking them to do. So they spend a fortune on having the leaflets designed, first of all. Then they'll spend a fortune on having the leaflets printed, because they'll go to a printer who tells them that it all has to be on glossy paper and it's the biggest weight paper and the best quality paper. And for crying out loud, guys, these are leaflets that you're going to be pushing through people's doors. But they still go with this. They spend that money on the design and the production of the leaflets. So they're already up to their neck in it because they've wasted a lot of money just getting that far. The leaflet itself tends to be over-designed, so there's more of an emphasis, when I talk about over-design, there's more of an emphasis on how it looks than what it's going to do. You know, for me, it's more important on what the leaflet is actually going to do, the result, which is, for me, is getting them to pick the phone up and call me to, excuse me guys, oh, just getting over a cold, let me have a sip. Okay, so it's more about what you're getting the leaflet to do, and in my case, as I say, it's about getting them to pick up the phone and call me. But unfortunately, you have graphic designers who are more interested in what the leaflet looks like, the image, and it doesn't get the desired result. They do small print runs, so you get people printing off 500 or 1,000 leaflets and distributing those and getting no result from it. Or on the other hand, as I said, they do mass leafleting where they do thousands of leaflets, hand them off to a company who deliver the leaflets, and as far as that company is concerned, all they've got to do is drop them through doors. So there's no actual targeting involved. Or they get the timing wrong. And timing when you're delivering leaflets can be very important as well. From a number of perspectives, psychologically, there are good times and bad times to deliver. And practically, there are good times and bad times. The last thing you want is to put your leaflet through a door only for it to be a pizza leaflet pushed in on top of it. Excuse me, guys. So getting the timing right is important as well. So what do? I use an ad that's proven, and again, that's proven through testing. The ad is proven to work and it's proven to get results. So that tells me that if I can get it under the right noses, it will get my phone ringing. I print in bulk. I pay a printer to print me off 20,000 leaflets at a time, so therefore I get massive discounts in the leaflets that I have printed. The bulk printing is done on lightweight, cheap paper, because as I said, my interest is not how it looks, but what it actually gets them to do. So I don't pay a fortune for design of a leaflet. I don't pay a fortune for the production of a leaflet, and I get 20,000 at a time, because leafleting is a numbers game. The more you get out there, the better results you're going to get. And I don't just mass leaflet areas, I target areas, so that if I am after a particular type of work, I will look for an area that is more likely to give me that kind of work. So what do I mean by that? Let's say, for example, I want to promote consumer units. Let's say, for example, I want to do an offer on replacing consumer units. I will target specific areas that I think could benefit from having a new consumer unit. Now, some of that is down to local knowledge. I'll know from working in areas the type of houses that have the old Wilex rewirable boards that may need upgrading. But what I'm not going to do is hand off my leaflets to a marketing company or a leafleting company who will just blanket leaflet a postcode area which could have thousands and thousands and thousands of new houses that are going to receive my leaflet about a consumer unit and then put it straight in the bin. Why? Because they've moved into a relatively new property, 5, 6, 7-year-old property. They're not interested in a new consumer unit. But if I target specific areas, then I have more chance of getting a response. Does that make sense, guys? Just see a show of hands. Yeah. Targeting, it's a very interesting subject when it comes down to it. You can do the very same type of thing if you were advertising EICRs, or what we used to call the old periodic inspections. You know, if you want to target, if you want to go out today and fill your diary with work just doing inspections, then you create yourself a leaflet that targets inspections, that works. There are key trigger words. There are ways that you can ensure that the leaflet will work for you. But then you start targeting places that are more likely to require an inspection than places that are not. So again, you're not going to target new houses, are you? One of the areas where you would target or could target for this type of thing is houses with estate agent boards on them. You know, to let boards, for sale boards, because people either buying the house or selling the house may be interested in having an inspection. They're more likely to be interested than somebody who's just moved into a brand new house. People who are letting a property may be interested, if they're a conscientious landlord, may be interested in having visual or EICR inspections carried out. So knowing where to target and targeting the right areas for the right type of work is a lot more effective. It's a better way of leafleting than just blanket leafleting, a generic leaflet around a postcode area and saying, oh, I've tried leaflets and they don't work. Because believe me, if you try it properly, guys, you can make it really, really work for you. I use an expression, I treat leaflets like my own little cash machine. If I want to generate a certain amount of income, if I want to do a certain type of work, then I will use a particular leaflet and it will generate that work for me. The guys who know me, the guys who are students inside the toolbox know that over the Christmas period and now up to the Christmas period, I start to promote exactly that. I start to leaflet for consumer unit changes. I have a particular leaflet that goes out for consumer unit changes, and I will stock up that work for after the Christmas period, because I like coming back after the Christmas period in the new year and just having a week or two of doing consumer unit changeovers. And that works for me. And by doing that particular type of targeting, you get to pick and choose the type of work that you want to do. Now, do you get calls for other things? Of course you do. People will call you. Once, you know, the leaflet advertises you as an electrician, but the target is for consumer units. So if they are in the market for a consumer unit, they are much more likely to call you. But if they want other work done, they're likely to call you as well. So yes, I do pick up other work, but I'm targeting a specific niche, if you like, and that is getting, for me, it gets great results. And like I said, I can treat it a little bit like a cash machine, so that I can generate work pretty much at will just using leaflets. It is really a good marketing tool to have and to use when done properly. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't do it properly. The use of psychology for leafleting as well. You know, some people will look at some of the leaflets that I distribute and say they look cheap, or they don't present a very corporate image. And you know, the bottom line is that's exactly what I'm aiming for. Not for me to look cheap, but I want the leaflet to look cheap, because if you are promoting directly to a homeowner or specific categories of homeowners, and believe me guys, there's a completely different way of tackling the affluent. There is a completely different, the mindset of the affluent is completely different, but we're talking here about generic domestic customers. But if you are targeting domestic customers with leafleting campaign, and a glossy, shiny leaflet that looks like it cost a fortune to produce lands on the doormat, then they are likely to look at that and think, he has spent a small fortune on this, therefore his charges are going to reflect that, and therefore I'm not going to call him because I will end up paying his expenses to produce this expensive marketing. As opposed to a leaflet that comes through looking like it is from a local guy who's looking for a bit of work and has perhaps cheaply produced these either himself or not paid a lot at a printers to have them done. They're more likely to look at that and think, I'll give this guy a call. And that's using simple psychology. Another simple psychological trick used when leafleting, and one of the reasons why you keep control of your own leafleting rather than farming it out to leaflet companies, is the whole idea of leaving the leaflet pinned in the letterbox. And again, this comes down to timing as well, and when you actually drop your leaflet, because of course if you drop it too early in the day and all the other leaflets come in on top of it, then it gets pushed in and it gets lost in the detritus that ends up on the floor. But if you get to a point where you know the right timings to do the streets, the areas in particular that you're doing, then you leave the leaflet pinned in the door. It doesn't end up on the floor with the rest of the detritus that goes straight into the recycling bin. The homeowner has to physically pull it out of the door. Is that going to get you more work? Yes, it will. And the reason it does is because they have to handle the leaflet. They have to physically pull it out. It doesn't just go with the rest of the crap. Now, does it mean everybody's going to call you because of that? No, it doesn't. But if their mindset is that they need an electrician, or that they want an electrician, or if your leaflet is sufficiently crafted in such a way that they will hold on to it, then you have a better chance now of making it to their notice board or their pin board, or stuck onto their fridge, or a call being made, or what. You've got much more of a chance if they now have it in their hand, as opposed to them scooping it up with everything else on the floor. Does that make sense, guys? Can I see a show of hands? I haven't lost anybody? Yep. A very simple but psychological trick that you can use. And if you farm it out to these companies that deliver your leaflets for you, you've got no control over that. But if you're delivering your own leaflets, not necessarily you physically running out and delivering leaflets, but if you have your own little team that delivers your leaflets, that you can give them instructions, you can train them, you can teach them what to do. I mean, for me, I use a couple of school mums. I've got a pensioner, and I've got a couple of school kids who just couldn't get paper rounds, basically, who are doing leaflets from it. And I can tell them the areas I want them to cover. I can show them the leaflets that I want dropped in particular areas, and how I want the leaflets to end up in the door. And it works when you take that kind of control yourself. And believe it or not, you pay less doing it that way than you pay a large company to go out and mass distribute your leaflets, and you'll get much better results. So that's using psychology. And as I said already, I treat leaflets a little bit like a cash machine. I like to say I can generate income at will, but I know that if I went out today with a bunch of leaflets for any particular given promotion that I want to run, the phone will start ringing and I will get work on that promotion, whether it's EICRs, whether it's rewires, whether it is consumer units, whether it's just garden lights, whether it's security lights. If I want to generate a certain amount of work, I just target leaflet in particular areas locally, and I will get work from them. So leaflets work, guys. Believe me, leaflets work, and don't listen to people who say to you leaflets don't work. What isn't working is the way that they are doing the leafleting. So one of the other things then that we do in terms of getting customers, the third thing is I talk to people about partnering and joint venturing. And this in itself is again, it's a big money spinner for some organizations, because there are organizations the likes of BNI, which is a fantastic organization, don't get me wrong. BNI, for those of you who don't know what it is, Business Networking International, they have morning networking meetings. I was a member for well over 8 years. I have nothing but good to say about BNI. And for those of you who are using it and getting great results, stick with it, because it is a fantastic organization. But nonetheless, they operate on a very simple process. And the simple process is that you form relationships with local tradespeople or local businesses and you pass one another work. And the truth of it is, you don't need an organization like BNI to do that. It's great to have that structure, it really is. But you can do very similar things on your own outside of an organization like BNI or Bob or Foursquare or any of the other networking organizations that are out there. And some of the obvious things that we all do naturally is we sort of form relationships with plumbers or with builders, whereby, you know, they'll pass us a job and occasionally we'll pass them a job, or they'll pass us a job and we give them a drink, or whatever the case is. But you can go wider than that in terms of the relationships that you build, and you can be better structured than that in terms of the relationships that you build. As I say, the obvious ones are the plumbers and the builders and gas fitters, carpet fitters, gardeners, and etc. But there's also a whole range of people who can put us in touch with our target market that we don't tap into and we don't tend to look at naturally. And to give you one example is hairdressers. You know, I build relationships with hairdressers because I know that housewives in the area like to get their hair done, go to the hairdresser and sit with the hairdresser for hours at a time talking about all their woes and what they're doing and what they're not doing. And if I have a relationship with a local hairdresser, then they are more they're right directly in front of my customer. When she starts talking about the fact that they're going to do a garage conversion, or they're planning to move house, or they're going to break into the loft, or whatever the case is, and that hairdresser is then in a position to mention my name or pass my business card or recommend my services. And there are more examples like hairdressers. There are gymnasiums, there are childcare centres, there's all sorts of different places where you can build partnerships that can help to promote your business. And I know you're asking yourself, what's in it for them? Why would they want to do that? Well, guys, you're an electrician, you're a tradesman. You can offer them various different things. You can offer them pat testing. You know, hairdressers need to have their equipment pat tested every year. It's a requirement for their insurance. You can offer them emergency call-outs. If a hairdresser can't open the door of their business because the power's gone down, they have a problem. If they have a relationship with an electrician, that's less likely to happen, because you can offer them a service based on the fact that they recommend your service to their customers. And that can take the form of them keeping leaflets and business cards on their premises to pass out on your behalf when the need arrives. That can take the form of them recommending you to their customers when their customer says that they're having some work done. You know, the hairdresser will hear about the building project that's coming up, the extension that's being built, the problems that they're having with the lights, or whatever the case is. They have an opportunity to put your name in there. It's a way of thinking, I guess, thinking out of the box rather than just thinking of the norm. There's a few rules that we teach and we talk about when we teach about partnering and joint venturing. And one is agreeing terms, even if they're just verbal, you know, what you will do in return for the customers that they pass to you. It's a lot better than I'll get you a drink. You've got to think that if you can make a formal arrangement and control that arrangement, then it works a lot better for you. And that formal arrangement, whether it's with plumbers, whether it's with a plasterer or a builder, may be that, I will only ever recommend you for plastering, or I will only ever recommend you for gas installations if you only ever recommend me for so on and so forth. So you can make it formal rather than just a drink. You can formalize it again by meeting regularly, and that doesn't have to be anything sort of like a B&I meeting, but by popping to the cafe once in a while, give the guys a call and say, are you around? Want to meet for a cup of coffee, have a drink? The whole emphasis there is you can tell them what you're doing. You can talk about the type of work that you're looking for. Very similar to the B&I principle, where you stand up and you do your 60-second pitch. What am I looking for this week? You can talk to these people about what it is you're looking for in the way of work. You keep your name in front of them. And yeah, it involves an element of work on your behalf, because not everybody thinks the way we think in terms of marketing our business. So don't expect the plumber to call you and say, oh, you want to go down to the cafe and we'll talk about marketing. And you don't have to do it like that. You go down to the cafe and we'll talk about marketing. But you call him and you ask him, you want to go for a cup of coffee? You sit down, you have a cup of coffee, you talk about the type of work that you're doing, you talk about the type of work that you're looking for. If you have any work that he might be interested in, you pass it to him. Share contact details. Some of the other things, just think outside the box. Don't just think of the trades. Think gymnasiums, think childcare centres, think churches, think church groups, think mobile mechanics. People who are going to be dealing with or talking to the type of customers that you want your name in front of. And take responsibility for educating them. Make sure that they know. Even if it's the local hairdresser, pop in every now and again. Even if it's just to freshen up the bunch of leaflets that you've left with them. Sit and talk to them about the type of work that you're doing, the type of work that you're looking for. And so keep in touch. Keep them up to date with what it is that you're actually doing. But there's a whole host of stuff that you can learn and you can do in terms of partnering and joint venturing. So those are sort of three of the things we do in terms of getting work into the business. So if we look at the other two, what we do in terms of getting more out of the customers that we actually get in, there's lots and lots and lots of ways of getting customers in. There's lots of ways of promoting. There's lots of ways of advertising. There's too many to look at. There's the web, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's networking, there's lead farming. And I'm sure you use some of those. But those are just three of the ways that we teach inside the toolbox. But our aim here is to discuss the how we get more now out of doing that, and how we build a relationship, if you like, with the customers, how we get them to relate to us once we've actually got them into the business. And one of the big things that I recommend is the whole positioning yourself locally. And this is about making you seen as the only option, if you like. So when somebody thinks, I need an electrician, then first and foremost, you should come to mind. And secondly, you should be the only one that comes to mind. They shouldn't be thinking, oh, well, no, I'll go with, or I'll have a look in the book and I'll see if there's somebody else. You need to be seen as the only option. You need to be seen locally as the person who sets the standards that the other Sparkies in your area have to live up to. And this, again, is simple to do because not a lot of people actually put the effort into presenting themselves locally as an expert. My guess is you are all qualified at what you do. My guess is you've put a lot of effort into studying your trade, into understanding how to do the best possible job for your customer. And therefore, my contention or what I believe is that you should and you deserve to be seen as an expert in what we do. You know, the amount of time you spend learning your trade, the amount of effort you have to put into remaining registered as an electrician, by keeping up to date with standards, by keeping registered with the awarding bodies, whether it is NIC, whether it's NAPIT or Alexa or whatever it may be. All of this deserves being seen locally as an expert. And unfortunately, over the years, that doesn't happen. There was a time when electricians were up there. Electricians were seen as being professional and expert at what they do. Unfortunately, now that's not the case. People don't. You are basically just, in inverted commas, another tradesman. You are now, like all trades, you tend to get looked down on with suspicion, with distrust, and you can claim back that position by educating customers. You can claim back that position by teaching your customers what the standards should be. Unfortunately, we don't do that. We tend to just think, oh, if this is the status quo, then we just have to ride that boat. If people think we have to drop our prices, then we must just drop our prices. Instead of upping our game, instead of showing them the value of what we do, we tend to capitulate and give in. When somebody says, oh, could you knock a bit off of that? We go, oh, well, yeah, I better knock a bit off, because if I don't, I'm not going to get the job, and the guy down the road will get the job. Or when we quote for a project and they say, oh, well, my mate down the pub can do it for a bit cheaper than that, we give in. And we really shouldn't give in. What we should do is position ourselves to such an extent that people want to use our services, because we are the professional in the marketplace. And guys, it is easy to do if we just apply ourselves to it. If we put a little bit of work into developing our position locally as an expert, we can do it quite easily, because a lot of people don't do it. First impressions do count. Unfortunately, you don't know when you're making that first impression. Unfortunately, in this day and age, whether it's the sign writing on your van, whether it's the ad that you placed in the magazine or the newspaper, whether it's the leaflet that went through the door, whether it's your followers on Twitter or on Facebook, you don't know when you're making that first impression. That first impression is not when you walk up and knock on the door and they open the door and see you for the first time. That may be your first contact with the customer, but that may not be, and in most cases is not, their first contact with you. So, there's an expression that marketing is everything you do and everything you say. And there's nothing further from the truth, because everything you do and say as a tradesman, as a self-employed local tradesman, everything you say and do is reflected on you as a professional, as a businessman. To give you a very simple example, some time ago, and it is some time ago now, on Twitter, there was an electrician who was tweeting on a regular basis, and a lot of his tweets were benign. They were just normal everyday sort of tweets, whether it was about what he ate for breakfast or where he was going to work that day. But occasionally he would tweet things like, been out on the pull last night, didn't get the leg over, blah, blah, blah. Hashtag not lucky or whatever. Or another one that stands out was out last night, got bounced from the club, numpty bouncers, effing whatever. And then a couple of days later, he would tweet, do you need a reliable local electrician? Hands up if you think everybody raced to their phone to tweet back and say, yes, please, come and work for us. Not with tweets like that. It wasn't happening. And yeah, just a couple of hands gone up. It wasn't happening because people were seeing a different side of him. People were seeing a side of him that perhaps they weren't interested in wanting around their property, around their home. So you don't know where your first contact with the customer is going to be. And you don't know how many jobs you are losing because you either tweeted the wrong thing or put the wrong posting on Facebook, or because you cut somebody up in the van, or because you gave the one finger salute to somebody on the motorway. You don't know how many times somebody has looked at your vehicle and thought, oh, I need a Sparks, I'll jot that number down. Oh, hang on a second, look at what he's just done. I'm not calling him. That's where you make your first impression, and we need to be conscious of that. So that's one way of positioning, of helping your position, is to be aware of where you're making your first impressions. Two is what I call pre-quote education, and that is teaching your customers that you are the right person to do the job. Most people, when they go to get a quote, they will get 2 or 3 different quotes. You want to be seen as the one that they choose. And you do that by educating them with a pre-quote. In my case, in the most instances, it's an email. It's a pre-quote email where I basically send them a friendly email which outlines all of the things that they should be looking for in an electrician if they're getting other quotes. And in simple terms, psychologically, again, what that is doing is it's positioning me as the person, because I will tell them that they need to have a registered electrician, that they need to have somebody who turns up in a livered van, that they need to have somebody who's wearing a recognizable uniform, who carries an ID card, so on and so forth. All of these things I'm telling them that they need from anybody who's coming to do a quote, because all of these things are things that I do. So psychologically, when they read that list, I tick every one of those boxes. There's a little bit, it goes a little bit deeper than that, but pre-quote education is another way of positioning yourself. Sending out written quotes, guys, again, instead of just fag packet quotes or just giving somebody a quote on the spot. It's great to give them an indication on the spot. That's fantastic. But the amount of times I've turned up at a customer where they've said, I've had 3 guys out to quote, and you're the only one who has returned a written quote. Ergo, you got the job. You know, it didn't matter that the guy who gave them a verbal quote was slightly cheaper than me. He didn't bother to put it in writing. He didn't bother to send them out a written quote. It's, again, another little thing that helps you to stand out as a professional. And quite honestly, you know, if you're using the right kind of software and stuff, it doesn't take a lot to send a quote out these days. Most people now are accepting quotes via email. It makes it even easier, again, easier and quicker. But doing a written quote is another way to position yourself as an expert. Following up, again, how many times have you sent out a quote and not followed up? How many times have you sent a quote to somebody and just hoped that they would call you back and say you've got the job? Lots, I'm guessing. Hands up. How many times have you never, ever followed up after sending? Lots of you guys, yeah. Again, a waste of time. There are customers who are there sitting on the fence, just waiting to be tipped over the edge. And they may have 2 or 3 quotes in front of them, finding it difficult to make a decision. And a simple phone call from you, even if you're slightly more expensive than the other quotes, or you're all probably the same price, whatever the case is, but a simple phone call from you shows them that you're interested. Again, there's a lot more to do with following up. Too much more to go into in this instance. But the simple act of picking up the phone and saying, you know, I sent you a quote on Tuesday, just following up to see that you got the quote. Is there any questions, anything you wanted to go over, blah, blah, blah. It makes them think you care, you're interested. Now, they may very well say, oh, thanks very much, we've decided to go with somebody else. Or they might say, well, actually, we just had a couple of questions, but we didn't know whether we should call or not. They'll talk to you, you build a relationship, you're more likely to get the job. Little things, guys, that all add up to make your positioning that little bit better. And we teach about positioning as an expert. And the way that we teach about positioning as an expert is to simply put yourself out in your local community by delivering or presenting articles in local community magazines, blog posts, sticking videos up on your website, doing local talks on electrical safety in the home or that type of subject. There are a multitude of simple, easy ways that you can build up a reputation as being an expert. And the bottom line is, guys, nobody's doing this kind of stuff. Well, nobody apart from the students inside my Electricians Toolbox at the moment. The way to present yourself, because you are an expert, you don't have to create you as an expert. You are. You qualified at your trade. It makes you an expert in what you do. You just need to advertise the fact and let people know that you are an expert in what you do. And you do that by putting your head above the parapet, by standing out taller than the other people local to you, so that when people think electrician, they start to look for or look at you. There's a number of different ways that you can do it. But again, before we start to look at the next topic, we need to talk a little bit about some of the information that you gather about your customers. How many of you keep information on your customers? When you get a call to do a quote for a customer, whether you get the job or not, do you keep records? Do you keep a database of customers, potential and past customers? Can I just see a show of hands? Again, not as many as I would have hoped or would have expected. Guys, all of you should be keeping records. Okay, the same guys who put your hands up. Okay, I've just put those hands down. If you keep a database, are you doing anything with that database? Are you using that database? Show of hands if you're using it for any kind of marketing or follow-up. Just scrolling down. Fewer again. Okay, so even those of you who are, thank you guys, I'll put those hands down. So even those of you who are keeping a database or keeping records maybe aren't using them. Some of you are, but a lot of you aren't. You need to collect the data from your customers when you have any kind of contact with them. And you need to, whether it's an inquiry, whether it's a quote, whether it's a small job that you've just gone out to do, you need to gather information from everybody and store the information and store it in a way that you can use it in either a CRM system or a mailing system, but a way that you can actually use that information to market. And I mean, there's some really good cheap software out there. I use an autoresponder called Aweber. There's loads of different. Sorry, I'm running away with this. Can I see a show of hands if you understand CRM systems or autoresponders? Just a quick show of hands if you do. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of you do understand what I'm talking about, but for those of you who don't, an autoresponder is a very simple piece of software that you can load your customers' details into, and you can send them out email messages. And you can do that on an as per basis, so you can send them out as and when you want, or you can set them all up in a sequence that will send out over a period of months, years, so on and so forth. As I said, I use an autoresponder. I use a system called Aweber. There are loads of, I'm not necessarily recommending it, there are loads of different systems out there. Just have a look on the web for autoresponders or CRM systems. And over the course of the years, I've accumulated a list of over 3,500 customers who are on those autoresponder lists. Now that means that when I have a promotion, or if I want to generate some work, I can promote out to that list of 3,500 customers. Now, are all of them still there? I don't know is the bottom line. Some people may have moved on, not being funny, but some may have died, but the email addresses may have changed, but the bottom line is every new customer I get in contact with, every new contact I have, every new inquiry I have ends up in the database in one form or another, so that I can keep in touch with them and I can keep my name on the top of their tongue, which is what marketing is all about. It's about keeping your name on top of their tongue, so when they think electrician, when they need electrician, your name is the one that come to mind. So the type of information, this is like speaking the obvious, but the type of information that you need to be keeping is obviously name, address, phone number, email address, and other details. Most importantly, guys, in this day and age, is a name and an email address. If you didn't keep the rest, if you dispose of the rest, fine, but a name and email address so that you can send them information from time to time. And we'll talk about the type of information, because I'm not talking about just selling all the time, because that would just piss people off. But if you make sure you keep email address and name. Now, what I tend to do when I go and visit my customers, when I go to do a quote visit, I will invariably ask the customer at that point if I can take their email address, and I pop that into a screen that I have on my iPhone, and that automatically puts them into the database. So while I'm there, I simply say something along the lines of, I've got the details, I'll prepare the quote, but if you give me your email address, now I can email you the quote, you'll get it quicker, blah, blah, blah. Their details go into that system. Very shortly after that, they get the email with my pre-quote template. So I'm heading out the door, I'm getting in the van, I'm driving down the road, and automatically they're getting my very first follow-up message, which is my pre-quote email. And that's the one which is positioning me as the local expert that's telling them what to look for in an electrician, what they need to be looking for if they're getting other quotes, the things to be wary of, the things that are good, the things that are bad. And they're getting that pretty much instantly as I walk out the door. I now have their details. I can send them other information, whether I get the job or I don't get the job. If I get the job, they get diverted into one list, which is a customer list. If I don't get the job, they get diverted into another list, which is a potential customer list, or a non-client list, if you like, so that I can continue to send them marketing information from time to time. And there are specific ways of doing that so that you don't hack them off. But as I said, it's having a system and a method for doing it. And if you collect the information there and then, there's no fear afterwards that you're going to forget to put it into the system or lose the email address or not use it. If you put it in there and then while they're there in front of them, then invariably you're also having their permission to do so. There's a number of other ways that we collect customer information or inquiry information. Our website, again, we give away a document on the website called Electrical Safety in the Home. It's a free download. It's an opportunity for people to get some free information on safety in the home. And I think it's just a little bit better than saying subscribe to our newsletter. I mean, who wants to hear from their electrician, subscribe to my newsletter? So with the website, they put the details in, they get a free download, and then they're now in another list where I can then start sending them some information, hopefully inquiring about what it is that they were interested in when they visited the website, and so on and so forth. And it just continues to build up the database of customers. Another opportunity on the website for them to put their details in is the inquiry section, or the contact us section. If they have a question or query that they want answered, they just pop their name, email address in, and their query, and again they go into the database. I start to build a list of local people who I can advertise to or promote to. And again, anytime anybody phones our office, when they speak to either Gemma or Helen, they will be asked for their email details, and they'll be told that they'll be receiving some information by email, and that goes into the database. And these are all ways of gathering information from potential customers that you can continue to market to, guys, because having a list of local people who may at some point need your services is the way to go. You need to have that list rather than hoping that eyes will drop on what you are promoting. You can promote directly to a list of local people. So how do we do it? What do we do to keep in touch with these customers when we have the information? We send out various different emails. Again, I'll say it's not all about sales pitches. It's not all about flogging something to them. It's about regular, valuable contact. It's about sending them stuff that they may be interested in. You can use your email to set yourself up as a gatekeeper. I talked about that earlier. When you have a list of other tradesmen that you have strong relationships with in terms of joint venturing with, you can have your customers be aware that you can get hold of a reliable carpenter, plasterer, plumber, so on and so forth. A little bit of work on your behalf, guys, but well worth it, because when they need a gardener or a plasterer, they call you. When they need a car mechanic or a locksmith, they call you. And yes, a little bit of work on your behalf just to pass on the details for them to contact. But when they need an electrician, they call you. And that's the key thing. You're keeping your name on top of their tongue. Send regular emails. And your regular email is not necessarily going to be, I'm an electrician and I want to sell you my services. It could be simple, helpful emails. For example, in my database, my customers will receive information over the course of a 24-month period that is automatically already set up in the autoresponder. Now, every 6 months, they will receive an email that suggests they should check their RCD. Every 6 months, that email goes out automatically to the list of people in my database. And it is not me trying to sell them an RCD. It's not me trying to sell them a new consumer unit. It's not me trying to sell them any service. It is simply a good morning. It's 6 months since we last asked you to test your RCD. It's good practice to pop into the cupboard, stick the, put your finger on the test button, see that it trips, blah, blah, blah. Please do that. And people will invariably email me back, because they don't all have new consumer units. People will invariably email me back and say, what's an RCD? Or, I don't have one of those. Or, is it time I looked at getting a new consumer unit? And almost every single time those emails go out, it generates work for me. Now, another one that goes out is smoke detectors. And again, that's on a 6-monthly cycle. So on another day, they will receive an email from me that says, it's been 6 months since we asked you or told you should test your smoke detector. If you just go and find the test button and press it, see that it sounds and that the other units in the house sound. And again, from time to time, they will generate work, because people will call me and say, you know what, I don't have a smoke detector system in my house. Can you come and have a look? Can you come and quote? So you're not trying to generate work. Sorry, you are. That's what you're doing. But you're not blatantly trying to sell something. You're sending them helpful emails. Now, there's lots of other little things like that they receive over the course of the 12 and 24-month sequence, depending on which one they're in, that is helpful to them, is interesting to them. It means that they don't instantly hit the delete button, but they read the email, it provokes some thought, and may generate some work. Again, just some small techniques that we use. So yes, by all means, send offers from time to time. If you have a particular special offer, then send it out. But don't always try and flog stuff. Create a newsletter. Now, I've moved on from sending an e-newsletter to sending a paper-based newsletter. But e-newsletters still work as well. Send your customers, your past customers, or your interested parties some information in a newsletter about the industry, about you, about your business. Just keep it interesting and friendly, and put a competition in there. Competitions in newsletters are great because it provokes response. It provokes engagement. And when you do run a competition in the newsletter, make sure you have some kind of an interesting prize. It doesn't have to be expensive. I give away a bottle of wine in mine. My newsletter goes out every 2 months, and I give away a bottle of wine in one edition, and then in the next one it'll be a pair of cinema tickets. They're not expensive, but it encourages people to respond. It encourages people to reply to the quiz or the puzzle in the newsletter, so that it's been read, number one. You're also building engagement with your customers. You can also then consider sending out greeting cards, whether that is for Christmas. Everybody does Christmas cards. It gets a little bit tedious, but not a lot of people do things like St. Patrick's Day or St. George's Day or Valentine's Day. These are all little events that you can actually use to send stuff to your customers that promotes you and again keeps your name on top of their tongue, keeps them reminded that you actually exist. And again, not a lot of people do it. Yeah, a lot of guys go out and they get a batch of Christmas cards, print it, and they send them out. And the bottom line is, Christmas cards tend to get wasted in the detritus of all the people who send out marketing stuff over the Christmas period. But look at other events. Look at other things that you can do. I mean, for crying out loud, if you know your customer's birthday, send them a birthday card. If you know the day that they celebrate their anniversary, send them an anniversary card. It doesn't cost a lot, and there's loads of online methods of doing this now that you can do it for pennies, and it just keeps you ahead of the competition. It keeps you ahead of the game as far as other electricians in your area are concerned, and it keeps your name on their tongue when they are talking to people, whether it's at a party, whether it's at a family gathering. They're talking to people and somebody says, I need an electrician, or I'm planning to have something done, and your name automatically pops up. And that's what you want every single time. You want your name to be the first name on their tongue when they think of or when they need a Sparks. Running very tight on time, guys. Thanks for sticking with me, but we're getting there. Right, putting it all together, it doesn't all work as one thing on its own. You need to be using a combination of things. You need to be using a combination of methods of getting people into your business and keeping people in. It's not just one, do one thing and everything works for you. You know, if you just do magazines, great, do magazines. But keeping a funnel of work coming through means doing lots of little things locally. Now, I also teach my guys how to create a recurring income. I use what I call the ICE plan. It's a plan that we sell to our customers that ensures that I can get paid on a monthly basis by a certain number of customers, so that they have peace of mind, basically. But I have peace of mind as well, because it means that I have money coming into the bank every single month, whether I lift a screwdriver or not. And the ultimate goal is to get people to that stage where they can do that, where they can actually have the customers pay them a recurring fee in advance. And all of this stuff we teach inside my Electricians Toolbox. It's a site that I launched in just over a year and a half ago now, and it is a mentoring site, a training site, a coaching site where I teach the Sparks Blueprint. And I teach it by using easy to learn stages, bite-sized chunks of information that we teach by video and by documents. We go from the very basics of marketing through to the advanced tactics and techniques that I use. Inside the membership area, we give the students templates and downloads that they can use in their own business. I run a regular monthly member question and answer session whereby we have a training session at the beginning where we will go over a particular topic, and then we have a Q&A session after that where the guys can talk about anything to do with their marketing in their business, and we will answer that to the best of our ability. We have a private members Facebook page where the guys are helping one another. I'm in there regularly and answer any queries or questions that come up, but it's a site that's dedicated to, it's a Facebook page that's dedicated to marketing rather than talking about the technical aspect of the business. There's enough sites out there talking about the technical aspect of the business, and there's certainly enough forums out there that are moaning about the business, but this is a site that's dedicated to members helping one another develop their business and market their business. We take a look at one another's websites and critiques and documents, the leaflets before they go out, letters before they're sent out. There's a lot of activity that goes on in there that the guys benefit from helping one another on top of all of the information that they get inside the member area. And in the member area, there's new content added to the member area every single month, whether that is PDF training documents or booklets, whether it is video training videos that we put up, because I know not everybody learns by reading or looking. That, you know, the videos are helpful to people who prefer to sit and watch a video and listen to what's to be said rather than sitting down and having to read a weighty document. So there are new videos going up every month. There's software that goes up on the site. There is, we have software in there that helps you produce videos for your website. If you've never produced a video in your life, it's there. There's software that helps you to create leaflets, really good leaflets. There's all sorts of stuff in there. There's free music that you can use to put onto your web videos. There are scripts that you can use. There's all sorts of documents that you can download. I mentioned earlier about producing articles and blogs that you can put out in your local community to position you as an expert. We have collections of these on the in the member area that you can download, rebrand, and use as your own, so you don't have to sit and write these articles yourself. Inside the member area, we allow just one electrician per postcode area, just to ensure you're not competing against other people using exactly the same type and methods of marketing. So only one Sparky per postcode area is allowed. My feeling is that should be you. There are 3 different levels of membership. There is the standard, gold, and gold plus. I only allow 6 gold plus members per year because the amount of work that goes into one-on-one contact with the gold plus members is a lot, and I can only spread myself so thin. So gold plus members, there's only, as I said, 6 of those a year. So far this year, there's 4 of those slots are gone. And then we have the standard membership, which is well, all of the things you can see on site at the moment. There's access to the member area, the private Facebook group, the online member seminars, the webinars, the monthly training updates, the monthly marketing downloads, all available, email support, email your questions or queries to me at any time. And then if you move over to the gold, we have access to online Skype coaching, marketing critiques from myself. You just send me your documents and I will critique them. We give you your own free website and your own domain email address. So instead of having sparky101@gmail.co.uk, you can actually have, you know, like me, james@kentelectrics.com or whatever your chosen domain name is, and a website to match. We build the website for you. Access to GI Online, which is a job management software, creates all your quotes for you, follows all of your transactions right through to producing the documents at the end that you can just pass off to your accountant for your bookkeeping. It's a very, very good piece of software that many of the members are actually using now. And then we have the live workshops that we run. You get free access to the live workshops and discounted access to the boot camps. So, you know, there's quite a lot there for people who want to learn how to market their business locally. And as I said, we've got a number of members who are using the system and getting really good results from it. There's a couple of testimonials here on the slides. There's more on the websites, and there are guys who are actually doing very well from some of the techniques that are being taught. Some people come in, they stay a couple of months, get what they need, and then they go. There are other guys who have become members and stayed. They've been there since the beginning. I can tell you now that the majority of guys who joined at the start have stayed. They're there as members today, and they gain a lot from being members. The Facebook group is vibrant, it's active, it's a good community, a good resource for the guys to, a sounding board for all of the guys to discuss marketing strategies, what's working, what's not working, things that they're trying, things that they've tried that haven't worked that they know other people have tried that has worked, so they can tweak it to be effective. and that's a private Facebook group that is only accessed by the members. So let's see what's inside. There's the training area, all of the training documents, all of the training videos, various downloads that you can use in your business to help position you as an expert. There's templates that you can use for your marketing in your business. It's a member-only Facebook group, member-only webinars for you to attend. And this evening, what I am going to offer you is the opportunity to come in as a standard member, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. But what I will do is I will give you some of the stuff that's reserved for gold members. So for those who are interested in becoming members this evening, the bonuses that I will offer is, if you come in as a standard member, I will still offer you a free website, a free email account, your own name website, your own name email account, and I'll also give you access to GI Online, which is the job management software. Now, on top of that, what I'm offering is that you can have 10 days free. It's a 10-day free trial, and then you subscribe as a standard member at $47 plus the VAT per month. So if you were to subscribe on the free trial, you would still access via PayPal, but no money would be taken for 10 days. That gives you 10 days to take a look at the site to see if it's for you, and if you decide it's for you, then great. If you decide it's not for you, no harm, no foul. You just simply unsubscribe and cancel the PayPal subscription, and then that's it. I would just cancel your access, and there's no harm. But you still have 10 days to pop in, have a look around in the site. Now, because all of the information is released on a monthly basis, on a 10-day free trial, you'll have limited access. You won't get to see every single thing inside the site, but it will give you a good feel for what the site is about and how you can benefit from the site. And after that, then after the 10 days, if you decide to stay, the payments will automatically kick off. If you want to do that, you can subscribe at jdewane.com/offer. That's the URL on the bottom of the page there. I'm going to just leave that up for a second. Just on the bottom of the page, there's jdewane.com/offer. Also, inside, you'll get immediate access to a number of the ebooks that I have created. There's the Electricians Business Blueprint, which I know some of you have already bought. Thank you for that. But there's also then the training on online videos. And with the training on producing online videos, I'm also supplying the software for you to create online videos. Now, this means that even if you don't want to appear on camera yourself, you can create a video that you can put on your website or you can put on YouTube that helps to create an expert position and authority for you locally. Then there's also the booklet on email marketing for electricians, which is a comprehensive guide on how to use autoresponders and email marketing as a local electrician. So that URL again is it's www.jdewane.com/offer if you wanted to take advantage of that this evening. I'm going to come to your questions in a few minutes, guys. I know some of you have questions. If you have, pop them in the grey box, whether it's about the learning material from earlier or it's about membership. Then just pop the questions in the box and I will answer them in just a moment. And I just want to reiterate that with membership comes a complete money-back guarantee, 100% money-back guarantee. If you subscribe for the 10 days, and at the end of the 10 days you decide you're going to go ahead and stay on as a full member, any time inside that 30 days, if you decide it's not for you, just simply unsubscribe, send me an email for whatever reason. I'm not going to question it. For whatever reason that it's not for you, send me an email and just request a refund, and I will refund the money back to your PayPal account without hesitation. So you get 10 days, plus you've got the 30-day money-back guarantee as well. So there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't give it a shot, but then that is completely up to you. I'm coming to your questions now, guys, but if you want to go and have a look at that, it is at jdewane.com/offer. and I will leave that offer up until the 10-day free trial offer. I will leave up until Friday night at midnight. Then it will come down and the site will go back to normal. But if you are at all interested, you can get more information at that URL, jdewane.com/offer. Right, if you give me just a moment, I'm going to open up the question box. Let me just see what we've got in here. Just going to move that across to there. And guys, if you have any questions, please pop them in the box now. I know we're running late, and I know many of you will want to be getting away, but if you have questions, I'm in no hurry to get away. I can stick around and answer any questions that you might have. So, okay, if I look at the first one, well, there's a few nice comments. Comments are all very nice. That's great. Thank you very much. I'm not going to read them out. I'm just going to go for the questions if I can. Okay. Right, Simon, it says, I'm already an EC member. How does this compare? How does it compare? Well, okay, I was an EC member. I actually was a member of Nigel's mastermind group, one of the first mastermind groups that he actually ran. Not sure how long you've been in the EC, Simon, but you will know that the EC is directed mainly at entrepreneurs. And I can't take anything away from it. It's a fantastic organization. I've had a great time while I was there. I had a great time in Nigel's mastermind group. My marketing is based at tradesmen. It is not about business building. It is about marketing trades locally at a very, very local level. I appreciate that there are tradesmen out there who are interested in being millionaires and interested in looking at building huge multinational companies and all that kind of stuff. That's not the direction I'm aiming at. I'm looking at local electricians who want to build local business and make a good go of earning money from their trade. Unfortunately, in our trade, there are too many electricians who are struggling to earn any real money out of their business. They are, for want of a better word, they're busy fools. They're spending a lot of time working and not really seeing a lot of result for it. And what I'm about is teaching them that there's a better way. I'm about teaching them that you can make a really good living out of being a local domestic electrician. I hope that answers that question, Simon. As I said, I can't detract or take anything away from the EC, but I just think its targeting is broader than what I'm doing. So hopefully that answers that. I've got Nick asking, very interested, do I have CV12? I have to say, without going into the system at the moment, I can't tell you, Nick. What I can tell you, and I perhaps should have said this earlier, the free trial is open to everybody. So your 10 days free trial, if you try the trial and your postcode area is gone, i.e. there's already a member in there or somebody else got in there first, then you will be informed during your 10 days, you will be informed that the area is no longer available. Then at the end of the trial, your access will be stopped, unfortunately. I've got to be fair to everybody. But Nick, unfortunately, without looking into the system at the moment, I can't tell you exactly who's in the CV12 or if there's anybody in the CV12 area at the moment. Sorry, I think it's a supplementary question there from Nick as well. How do you define the postcode? Okay, postcodes are broken down into geographical areas. So Again, without sort of throwing all the maps up on screen, it's very difficult to explain. But for example, if you, the maps are broken down very similarly to UK franchise areas. This is not a franchise, guys, but they're broken down into very much similar areas. So in other words, if you were to subscribe to the CV12 area, you're not just limited to CV12. It may be CV12, CV13, CV14, however the map has been divided up, and it'll be divided up based on the population or the estimated population within that area, so that the areas are divided up fairly, if that makes sense. Much easier to explain by showing you the maps, much easier to explain when if you've subscribed and you've had a look and you're interested in an area, I can show you the area and you can say yes or no. But hopefully that answers that question. But yeah, by all means, if anybody's interested, try to attend a free trial. If the area is taken, you'll be informed. If it's not taken, you'll automatically be subscribed. So hopefully that answers that. Right, Luke. Sorry, it's a long one, Luke. I'm just going to read this. Start my own business. Worried not having enough work. Where do I advertise? How do I get? Right. Well, hopefully, sorry, that question was put in quite early, Luke. Hopefully, I've answered that question during the course of the presentation. Now, sorry, the question was, where do I advertise if I'm starting out my new business? There are numerous different ways you can advertise and promote yourself. My advice would always be, if you're starting out, if you're brand new and you're on a low budget and you're starting out, my advice would always be to use the two simple ones that we talked about this evening, and that is leafleting and local community magazines. Why? Because number one, they're cheap to do. They're very, very cheap to do, both of them. And number two, you can target, you can do them being highly targeted, which means there's more likelihood you will get results. Hoping this is making sense. So for example, if you have a very small budget in terms of leafleting, you can produce the leaflets yourself on a standard printer. I know because I've done this myself in the very, very early days. I had a standard printer that was printing on one side. You would print on one side, let the paper, the ink dry, and then flip it over, print on the other side. You've now got your leaflet printed on two sides. Get a cheap guillotine from Staples, cut that A4 sheet into 4. You now have 4 leaflets that you can distribute. That is so easy to do. You do that with 10 sheets of paper, 20 sheets of paper. You then create a bundle of leaflets that you can go out and deliver. The key to it is not just to whack them through any door that you come across. The key to it is to target it in areas and places that you're more likely to get results. And then when you start to get the results, you start to inject that money back into more marketing so that you're able to produce more leaflets, or you're able to buy an advertisement in a community magazine. So that is, if I was starting out all over again, that's what I would be doing. I would start with leafleting. I would build up slowly from the leafleting. If you're already in employment, start doing it on a slow process. So if you're already in employment, hang on to the job, start getting leaflets out and do the work on a Saturday. Just build it up slowly until you actually get a regular flow of calls coming in. And doing it with leaflets, if you do the leaflets properly, I can't emphasize this enough, if you do them properly and targeted enough, you will get work. There's no doubt about it. It works, full stop. So hopefully that helps there. I think there was a supplementary question as well, Luke. Sorry, a couple of supplementaries. Oh, sorry, no, you're just telling me what you can do. Yeah, look, I would always say, and you know, it's not for me. At the end of the day, you have got to make the decision for yourself. But I would always strongly recommend, if you have a niggle at the back of your neck that you want to be self-employed, just go for it. Just do it, because if you don't, you will regret it. If you leave it too long and you do it eventually, you will look back and look at the wasted time that you've had. I have to say, since becoming self-employed, I have never ever looked back. Have I had hard times? Yes, I have. Have I had difficult times? Yes, I have. Have I had sleepless nights? Yes, I have. But I've never ever had to worry. And here's a really interesting thing. Sorry, I'm going on a rant again, guys. Really interesting thing is, people talk about job security and they say, oh, I'd rather be in employment because I've got job security. Guys, that is a joke. The only job security you have is when you're self-employed, because when you're self-employed, you can control the amount of work you get if you do it properly. Nobody can come and sack you. Nobody can come and tell you you have to go and work 70, 80, 100, 200 miles away from your home if you want to work that week. You can decide, you can control what it is you do. Sorry, it was a bit of a rant, but the bottom line is there is no such thing as job security. No such thing as job security unless you're self-employed. Because if you're in employment, anybody can turn around at any moment and either sack you or dismiss you or lay you off because their company's going down or going under. And then where are you left? Going looking for another job with everybody else? So if you have, and I'm not telling you go out and become self-employed. I'm telling you that if you have that niggle at the back of your head, if that's what you want, if that's the direction you want to do, then bite the bullet and do it, because my belief is you won't regret it. And if you market yourself properly, there is loads of work out there in the domestic sector. There is loads of work in the domestic sector. You just have to find it. You just have to know where to find it. You just have to go and get it. And the unfortunate thing is people are waiting for it to be handed to them. People have gotten into the whole rut of waiting for the bigger companies to hand them down subcontract work. They're waiting for the lead generation sites to give them business. They're waiting for the Yellow Pages to suddenly work. So if you take control and you put that hour a day into marketing your business, an hour a day into looking for customers, then you will take control of your own destiny. You will have a business that's worth working for. Sorry, like I said, a bit of a rant, but anyway. Okay, so what have we got? Next question. Leaflet, you can get 5 A5. Sorry, okay, Matt, fine. That is right. Cost of leaflets. Well, it depends on where you go. I mean, I searched around for some very, very cheap prices in terms of leafleting, and I can get 20,000 leaflets done for £90. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I have misled you. The last batch that we did was £105. So that was 20,000 leaflets at £105. It started in the year when I met them first. It was 90, but the bottom line is printers will do deals. That's number one. Number two, if you want to know the ones that I use, I'm not going to broadcast it here because I'm not here to promote that, but if you want to know the printers that I use, just drop me a line, drop me an email. The members know because the details are inside in the member area, but you know, if you want to know the printer that I use, and they are a London-based company, they're based just outside of Croydon, and they will deliver the leaflets to you. So I don't mean deliver leaflets for you, they will deliver the leaflets to you. But you know, you shop around. There are loads of printers who will do you deals on leafleting, or sorry, on producing or printing leaflets. Oh, and by the way, just as a point of interest on that, when you get a batch of 20,000 leaflets printed, they don't all have to be the same leaflet. So if you're doing promotions or offers, you can have, and I often do, have batches of 5,000 done, but I still get the cost of a 20,000. So I'll do 5,000 for one promotion, 5,000 for another promotion, 5,000 of a generic, and 5,000 of a different promotion, and I still have my 20,000 leaflets. I'm getting the price for 20,000, not the price for 5,000. Hopefully that helps as well. And if you need to talk to printers about that, don't go to them and say, I want you to do 5,000 of this leaflet because they'll charge you at the 5,000 rate, and I want 5,000 of this leaflet because they'll charge you at 5,000. Tell them you want the 20,000 leaflets and you want them done in this way, and you'll get the deal for the 20,000 leaflets. So hopefully that helps, Matt. Jason. Let's have a look. What's my opinion on local advertising in the community, i.e. banners in Tesco car park, billboards, local football clubs, etc.? Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one, Jason, to be honest, because some areas and some venues work better than others. I will tell you very simply, and I'll come back to the main question in a second, but in very simple terms, when we talk about leaflet distribution, and I talk about a thing called leaflet domination to my students, and with leaflet domination, it's all about the amount of times a pair of eyes can see the leaflet. So it's about dropping the leaflet multiple times in the same location, but also I will put a copy of the leaflet in the local community shops. So you'll have the local corner shop where you put a copy of it up in the window and you pay whatever it is, £1 for a month or whatever it might be, and it stays up there. So that kind of community-focused advertising works. When we're talking about billboards and I'm assuming you're talking about things like football clubs, golf clubs, that type of thing. For some organizations it works and for others it doesn't. I've done a cricket club and I've done a golf club and I didn't get a whole lot from it, to be honest. I've also used the boards in the supermarkets, what they call the postbox boards in the supermarkets, and those aren't great either. You don't get much of a return on those and they can be quite expensive. But you know, if you know your target audience, if you know your target market, and if your target market, as I say, you know, as a joke earlier, it was if your target market happened to be guys who go out and play golf, then putting an ad or a banner in a golf club is a good way to go. If your target market are dog lovers and you can be involved in an event that shows dogs or sponsors dogs, then a banner in their environment would work. So it's about knowing who your customer is, but just blanketly putting an advertisement for domestic customers in a cricket field isn't necessarily going to work. So it involves working on your, hopefully this is answering the question for you, and I know it sounds a bit roundabout the houses, Jason, but the bottom line is it's about knowing who your market is and then targeting areas where they go to. I mean, up until recently I sponsored local football clubs as well, and I have to say I got bugger all work out of the sponsorship, but it made me feel good that I was sponsoring the guys. And there are other reasons why you can do that and negotiate things with it as well. So in other words, when the guys were involved on Twitter or Facebook, they would retweet messages of mine or promote me that way as a sort of a thank you for the sponsorship for their club. But getting work directly from it, not a lot. It's a nice feeling, but you don't get a lot of work from doing it. So hopefully that answers the question. Chris, thank you very much for your comments. As I said, I'm not going to read out all the comments, guys. I do appreciate them, but I'm going to just scan through for the questions. But thank you, Chris, for that. And Andrew, thank you. Okay, lots of comments. Very few questions, guys. I've either done a really good job or I've bored you to tears. Okay. No. Okay, guys. I am seeing lots and lots of comments, but not a lot of questions. So thank you very much for the comments. If there are any questions, guys, please just pop them in the box, and I will. Okay, Nick. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, the bottom line is the offer. Sorry, Nick has stated that he's paid more for 2 leads than the cost of the membership. So look, the membership is it's a standard rate membership. I can tell you now, guys, and I don't have them here to talk for me, but if you have a look on the site, you'll see some testimonials from some of the members. The guys who are members get great value out of the membership site. If you aren't making your money back, guys, then I don't want your money, is the bottom line. And that's why I offer the money back guarantee. I know that the stuff I teach, the stuff that I use in my business works. The stuff that I teach to the guys, when they use it, it works. Now, if you become a member and you decide not to use the stuff or sit back on your rear end and not do anything, then you won't see any results. But if you put the effort in, if you put the work in, you will get results, and you will get much more back per month than you pay to be a member of the site. Even in terms of the value of the free stuff that you get, the software that I buy the software, I buy the license to the software so that I can give it to the members. The web hosting, I pay for the web hosting so that you don't have to. I pay a guy to build your website. Why? Because I believe you should have a website. I give you your free email address, which is your own domain one, rather than having a generic AOL or a Gmail or a Yahoo, because to present yourself as a professional, you need to have that kind of presence. So I provide you with that. So you get a lot of value for what it is that you actually pay. And I mean, yes, I'm not in this for purely the love of it. I enjoy it. I love it. It's great. But of course, I am earning some money out of it as well. But the bottom line is, if you're not making money from it, if you're not getting value out of your membership, then there's no point in you being a member. But I can guarantee you, if you put the work in, if you use the stuff that I teach, if you do the things that I suggest, you will make money locally as an electrician. You will increase whatever it is you're doing now as a local electrician. I can guarantee that. So that, but sorry, I again went off on a tangent, but thanks very much for that, Nick. Simon, thank you very much and welcome on board. I can't at the moment see who's done what in terms of coming on board because while I've got the webinar software open, it's difficult for me to be logged into the other system at the same time, so I can't see what's going on in there. And by the way, if you have subscribed and you haven't received the welcome email or anything just yet, just bear with me, because once I come off here, I will go on and log into the system and see what's happening. You should get automatic emails once you sign up. You should get an automatic welcome email, but depending on how many people are trying at any one time, it may slow the system down a little bit. So let me just have a look down. But yeah, thank you very much for that, Simon. Okay. Jason, tracking numbers. Regards to the number of trackers in magazines, etc. If the same people were reading the ad in different magazines, then wouldn't a different number look a bit funny? In simple terms, Jason, no. No, I've had, over the years, I've had 1 or 2 questions about the difference in the numbers, why I have different numbers. And I just explain honestly what I'm doing. I just tell people that I place different phone numbers in different magazines for the purpose of tracking my advertisement so that I know exactly where my advertising is coming from. And people understand it. In this day and age, people know that that's what you do. Most of the big corporations, the big companies do it. You will see advertisements from big companies in big publications, big national newspapers, and they will have website addresses that are completely different to their standard normal website address, or they'll have phone numbers different in different publications. Why? Because they're tracking which publications are working for them, and people understand that these days. I have had, as I said, I've turned up at addresses where people have said, oh, you're over in that side of Chatham, and we've called you from Raynham, and we thought you had a Raynham number. Why is that? And I'll explain to them, and I'll tell them it's a a geographical number, it's a tracking number so that I can promote in particular areas, but I also can track the calls and know where my calls are coming from. And people just are happy with the answer. It doesn't present, in this day and age, it doesn't present a problem. And again, I think it's one of those things that hold people back because they're stuck in the oldie worldy thinking people remember a phone number and link that phone number to your business. It doesn't happen. You know, when people are looking for an electrician or looking for your business, they go and look up your number, or they've got your number saved in their phone or whatever. People don't generally quibble or complain that you've got one number in one magazine and another number in another magazine, or another number on another leaflet. I think right now at this moment I'm up to 13 different geographical numbers. I know we consistently run with about 9 numbers, but I'm up to about 13 at the moment, and they're pretty much all in use as well because we've got Christmas promotions and things coming up. And I've never ever had an issue with it. They all get diverted to the main number. The main number is the number that will be on my business card and is on any paperwork that goes out, i.e. quotes or pre-quote letters or anything like that, invoices. That has the main number. But no, Jason, in answer to your question, never really an issue. So hopefully that answers that question. My partner works in a restaurant. Would it help to put leaflets on the tables? Well, obviously, if you're going to do that, it would require the permission or the agreement of the people who own the restaurant. And again, depends on the type of restaurant. You know, if you're talking about a local builder's cafe, yeah, good idea to get your name out there. If you're talking about a sort of a McDonald's fast food type thing, then maybe not, you know. But having said that, lots of families go through the McDonald's, and if you craft your leaflet correctly, then there's every possibility it could give you some effect. But again, leafleting is not just a one-off. It's not a one-off method for promoting your business. You need to get those eyes. You know, I think somebody once said that people need to see a promotion or an advertisement something like 7 times before they'll act on it. Now, I'm not going to say that that's 100% true or how true I believe it is, but I do know that you need to be seen a number of times for people to build any kind of trust or faith that you're there, you're sticking around, you're not a fly-by-night. So the more times that they see your advertisement, the more time that they see your leaflet or your flyer, then the more likely it is that they're going to pick up the phone and call you. So it wouldn't do any harm to put your leaflets on the restaurant table, you know, assuming you have permission from the owner or the management of the restaurant. But I wouldn't depend on it as a sole method of getting work. Hopefully that answers that one. I still like to do commercial and industrial, but occasionally when cash flow allows, can I customize and get more contacts, even if only? Well, yeah, I mean, you can. I do commercial and I do industrial, but I do a very small amount of it because I choose not to. I choose to do domestic work. I choose to focus my marketing and my advertising on domestic work. That is where my focus is. But I still pick up commercial work. I still pick up industrial work. The nice thing about it is I can be picky and choosy about the commercial and industrial work that I decide to do, simply because I have enough domestic work to keep me going, you know, well and truly going. So yes, there's no reason why you can't run both side by side. Nobody's saying focus purely on, you know, give up doing something because you enjoy doing it or you like doing it. And indeed, some of the stuff that I teach is transferable. It's a skill that will transfer to marketing, business to business, as much as it will business to customer, B2C. So there's no reason why you can't run commercial and industrial beside the domestic. My focus is on domestic, and the stuff I teach is on domestic. But, you know, like everything, with a bit of tweaking, you can make it work in the commercial or the industrial sector. It might be a little bit more difficult in the industrial sector, but certainly the commercial sector. So yes is the bottom line on that one. So, okay. Again, guys, thanks very much for the comments. But I am not seeing any other questions. So, if there are no other questions, then I will wrap it up. Guys, for those of you who are interested, the offer will stay up until Friday, and then the 10-day free trial will come down. It's www.jdewane.com/offer. And as I said, the 10 days will give you it's a look around the site. It's a free look around the site, but you won't have access to absolutely everything until the end of the 10-day free trial. To be fair to me, so by all means, have a look, see what you think. If you think it's for you, then I would love to work with you. If it's not for you, no harm, no foul. At least you'll have given it a try. Thank you all for your very kind comments tonight, and without being self-promotional about it, as you've put some kind comments in here, I'd be very happy for you to mention them on the social networks as well, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter. That would be nice as well. But guys, thank you very much for your time. I know we've run over tonight. I hope you've had a lot of interesting information from it. I'd like to see a lot of you inside the toolbox at some time in the future, and very shortly I will start advertising and promoting my next live event. So if you have an interest in coming along to meet the guys live and learning a little bit about social media, then it would be great to see you at one of those as well.